Let's continue our conversation on Stoicism, going over the moral letters by Seneca. I've skipped, one or two letters. I would like to continue with letter 21. I'll read you part of it. From Seneca to Lucilius, greetings. Do you think your business is with those people you wrote about? Your business is most of all with yourself. It is you that are the problem. You don't know what you want. You admire honorable conduct more than you imitate it. You see where happiness lies, but you dare not go after it. So, since you have little insight into what it is that holds you back, I will tell you. You suppose that the things you are about to leave behind are important. And just when you have set your eyes on that tranquility toward which you are headed, you linger over the gleam of this life you are leaving behind, like one who is to go down into mire and darkness. You are mistaken, Lucilius. Passing from this life to that one means going up. You know the difference between a glow and a gleam, how one gives off light from its own sure origin, the other reflects light from something else. There is the same difference between this life and that. This life is suffused by a brightness that comes from outside itself, so that anyone who stands between will cast it into thick darkness. That life is radiant with a luster of its own. I had to think of the, and this is a thought that I think figures quite largely in Stoicism, but I find a very interesting one. What would you like your legacy to be? And when you are moving on from this life to death, what would you like your legacy to be? And Seneca is describing to Lucilius how Lucilius is thinking about what he will leave behind and how valuable all that is. But I think a rather harsh reality that we must all face is what my granddad used to sum up as, you can't take it with you. In other words, you can try to acquire a lot of money, and that is something that many of us pursue, and we want to live comfortably, we want to have this, that, and the other. But from a Stoic viewpoint, there is a lot to be discussed about that, right? It is the same Seneca, for example, who wrote in one of his moral treatises, and I forget which one, but the true profit of virtuous deeds lies in the doing, and the only fitting reward for virtue is virtue. In other words, it's not other things that matter necessarily, it's the virtue that is most important. We remember, because we have seen this many times, Stoicism is a type of virtue ethics. Virtue is the most important thing. Doing the right thing is the most important thing. And with that in mind, I was thinking of, so what do you bring to the table, and what would you like to be remembered for? That could, of course, be, I want to be remembered as an incredibly rich person, someone who had enormous amounts of money, who had successful companies, who did all those things. And for some people, that is reward in its own regard, right? There is the rewarding aspect of having all that going for you. But I think if you want to be more stoic about it, there are other things that are much more important. Other characteristics that can be crucial in how you are remembered and how that will make people think about you. I was thinking the other day about King Leonidas, for example, right? Who led his 300 men against a massive Persian army at the quote-unquote the hot gates, the Thermopylae. And he was routed completely. Everyone in his army died. But he's remembered to this day. But he's not remembered because of his riches. He's not remembered as, he was an incredibly rich king who had all this money and a huge castle, all that stuff. It's not like that, right? It's something else. He's remembered for his deeds, for his actions. He can have all sorts of opinions about those actions, but he stood up for what he believed in. And I think that from the viewpoint of Stoicism, that is a lot more valuable. It's a lot more valuable when one day the angel of death visits you, so to speak. Even with all the money in the world, you will not be able to bribe that angel of death, and you're going to die all the same. Now, what will you be remembered for, and how would you like to be remembered? Would you prefer your friends or family or both to say, well, he was incredibly rich? Or would you prefer those friends and family to say, well, he was a good person? To be frank, I know what I would prefer, right? So, if you seek Stoicism as sort of a guideline, something to aspire to, then I think that is very important. That you are remembered for the right things. That you are remembered for being a good person, whose yes was yes and whose no was no. Clarity. Someone who tried to help others. Someone who did their best to make sure that other people could progress in life, that they were supported, that their friends were supported, that their friends were given advice if need be. All those kinds of things. And I think that makes for a much more interesting person, and a person who will be remembered much more fondly than, well, he had a huge house. What else do you remember from this person? Nothing. But they had a wonderful house and 3 cars. You know what I'm saying? And that, I think, is a very Stoic viewpoint, which I wonder if that comes from maybe from the Cynics. But remember that Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, was initially trained by a Cynic philosopher, and the Cynics are even more hardcore than the Stoics are. They say you don't need anything but virtue. So you should lead a life of poverty because money is just a distraction, right? For some reason, cynicism never became very popular. I wonder why. But in any case, I think it's an interesting thought to consider, right? What will your legacy be? How will you accomplish that legacy? What will you do to maintain that legacy? What will it take for you to be a good person? What decisions will you make? What decisions will you not make? What things in life will you cherish and value the most? And what things in life do you choose to let pass you by? Those were some of the things on my mind as I read that letter. Let me know what you think. And let me know what you think about the concept of a legacy. I'd find that interesting to read. I hope this was useful, and I hope to see you again next week for more conversation about Stoicism. Bye.